All right, welcome. The Black Gold Nation presents cinematic connections for revolutionary change, and enlightening and engaging, enlightening and edutaining assessment of movies as it relates to the forward progress of Black people in America, Africa, and the diaspora. All right, so what is the Black Gold Nation movement? The Black Gold Nation movement is an international organization that seeks to liberate and save Black people by establishing our own towns/cities whereby we control the environment to make our people bigger, better, and stronger. So it is our assessment, the supporters, members, leadership in the Black Gold Nation, that when we allow other people to control the environment in which we live, we always lose, period. When we allow other people to control any aspect of that environment, any systems within that environment that other people control, we always find ourselves on the bottom of that system. It doesn't matter if it's the educational system, the political system, the security system, the agricultural system, the spiritual systems, it don't matter. When other people control it, we are at the bottom or very close to the bottom. And when other people control the entire space, politically speaking, we always lose. So what we're saying in the Black Gold Nation is that we absolutely must be in control of those spaces where we live as much as possible. And if we can't control them completely, we got to have leverage within that space to ensure that we're looked out for and that we're getting what we need. And we most certainly want to control as many of the systems within those spaces that affect our lives. And in America in 2022, things are most certainly changing. The system is showing its true colors, and it's showing that it doesn't really care about Black people at all. So we have to create movements by which we can control the aspects of what affects our lives as we seek to control the entire space in which we live. So why we came to be, based on the understandings, teachings, practices, and strategies of past and current organizations that our leadership has lived, studied, and are taught, and the need to continue doing. We build upon the successes, minus the mistakes, to provide our people solutions that work now, to implement a 100-year plan to build power. So we understand that all those awesome Black people that came before us, all those wonderful Black organizations that were trying to do a very righteous and necessary thing, all of them had successes, but none of them completed their ultimate goal of empowering and freeing Black people. So that means it is on us, the adults who are alive and well, Black adults who are alive and well right now in 2022 moving forward. It's on us to pick up the baton where they left it and run our leg of the race as best we can. But it would be a mistake to try and run our leg of the race without understanding the race, without knowing how the race works, without understanding the rules, without understanding how other people cheat in the race. So if we're going to win, we got to understand what we're doing. So we got to study. We got to study, we got to learn, we got to understand, and we have to create solutions that work for us now in 2022 moving forward. And more importantly, we have to make sure that we have a plan that's about building power, not just for today or tomorrow or next month or next year, but we have to be like the Chinese. We have a 1,000-year plan to build power for ourselves and our people. And we got to understand that nobody's going to do this for us. If it's going to work, it has to be us, because no one is coming to save Black people. So we want to make sure that we understand what we're doing, and we understand how it's to be done. We understand what other people didn't get right for whatever reason, so we don't make the same mistakes. And most importantly, out of all of this, we got to make sure that our youth who are up next understand what we're doing and are a part of our 100-year plan as we raise them to implement their 100-year plan, so that as a people, we will always be 100 years out. Not because we got lucky, not because somebody got some nonprofit dollars, not because some white person felt sorry for us and gave us some money, but because we put that plan in place 25, 50, 75 years prior, and we are no longer behind the 8 ball that eventually gets knocked into the hole, but we are actually the pool stick that hits the cue ball, that hits the 8 ball. Whatever happens after that happens because we put it in place several years prior. So that is a little bit about the Black Gold Nation in our movie review. We're going to turn this thing over to Brother Craig B. Lee, who is going to break down the movie Godfather Part 2. All right, Brother Craig.
All right. Great morning. Great morning. First, there is no such thing as being behind the 8 ball.
Okay.
There's no ball behind the 8 ball. Being behind any ball on the table is being behind the white ball. Because the white ball knocks all the other colored balls off the table.
Did I say behind the 8 ball?
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's an expression that people use. And if you really sat and thought about it, what does behind the 8 ball really mean? Because the 8 ball is the last ball.
Right, on the table, yeah.
You're really behind the cue ball because the cue ball is actually knocking all the color balls off of the face of the earth. I wanted to just reference that. So I want to say great morning, grand rising to everybody, and another phenomenal film. I got a couple of funerals to make today, but we're gonna make this happen this morning and cover everything that we got to cover. First off, as always, and great morning, grand rising, Sister Shannon. Good to see you all the way up in the cold state of Colorado.
Yes, it's cold.
Yeah. So as we begin, as always, I want to have a perspective from both of you in terms of what you all thought about the film, your general take before we get into the particulars.
Ladies first.
Well, for one, it was long.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it had a whole intercession, but
yeah.
It was very enlightening in many ways. I would just say Mike is a cold piece of work.
Come on.
In so many levels. He is very intelligent and strategic on his plays and how he maneuvers.
Exactly.
It was great. I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, I liked how it kind of went back and kind of set up the story of how Vito, got there.
Exactly.
And then as he got older, it went back
Exactly.
and handled that business. I think the part that really did stick out to me is when Mike had Pittigelli's brother fly in at the trial, and literally just stand at the door while he's getting checked and just give his brother that look like, you idiot.
Come on.
You idiot. Yeah, and Mike, he was gangster. He he did exactly what he said he was going to do, allowed his brother to live and breathe until his mom was off this earth, and handled that business too.
Okay.
But yeah, very eye-opening and telling in a lot of aspects.
Okay. All right, Brother T.
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome movie. Of course, it's a classic. It's a classic, and the thing that really jumped out to me, and I'm going to start writing these things down because I know you're going to ask the question. I want to be more succinct with my answer. But overall, it just reminded me how when certain people or certain groups say by any means necessary, they mean it. We just talking. And Mike was serious about holding on to power. He was willing to do whatever he needed to do to ensure that his enemies were gone. And even in the part of the movie where his brother Tom says, "You've won, all your enemies are dead." Mike looked at him like, "Are you stupid?" So Mike, he was about that work. He was about that life. And I actually started to YouTube it, but I got busy on something else. So I didn't finish it. But he like Sister Shannon said, he was extremely intelligent and always thinking. I'm trying to figure out how he knew. How does he know what he knows as far as who's coming after him and how? Other than when his father said in part 1, whomever they send is the sellout. Other than that, like, he just knows things about how people maneuver. So hopefully we'll get into it. But overall, I thought it was an awesome movie. It showed the how the world, of course, how the world really works. I love when Vito got revenge on old boy for killing his father and his brother. I love that part. I'm like, man, and he stuck that knife in and he took it across his body diagonally. I mean, that was an awesome cut. So, I thought it was good. I thought it was an excellent portrayal, I guess, of art imitating life.
Yeah.
It laid it out, if you're paying attention, as to how this thing really works, and how you're not going to be able to maneuver and protect your own if you're not willing to get down in the dirt, or at least have some people who are willing to get down in the dirt on your behalf. And I was thinking about, like Sister Shannon just said, nothing happens while my mother is alive. I was thinking about that. A lot of us talk about wanting freedom and empowerment and liberation and blah blah blah, but we give up and quit so easily. Michael says, "You sold me out, so you got to go, but not until my mother is no longer here." How many of us are willing to go to that length to make sure that we have power and we protect our own? People come and go in this thing all the time. They see the presentation, they love it. They've been looking for it their whole lives. They want to be involved. Them Negroes quit in less than a month because they now have a to-do list. So Michael's dedication to his overall mission was powerful. So yeah, it's an awesome movie. It's a classic for a reason. And that was my biggest takeaway. By any means necessary.
Okay, Cope said it. I will say, we are introduced to Michael Corleone in Godfather Part 1, and he subsequently takes the reins midway through the film after his father is taken out, dies, but the hit is attempted on his father, and then his brother is taken out. And so what you get in Godfather Part 1 is him assuming the infrastructure that his father had in place. In this one, he's establishing his own infrastructure in concert with his father's infrastructure. So that's very, very important. Okay, so how does this film begin? How does the film?
It begins with them kissing. Well, at the very, very, very beginning, I think they're kissing Michael's ring. I think that's what they're doing. But the film starts with him on the screen, and then it goes to the funeral of his father.
Yeah. So Stan, you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. So Michael is being officially certified as Don Corleone.
Yeah.
And then he's remembering the story of his father. So the first question that you asked, Tamani, how does he know these things? What this is showing you is, he was willing to listen. See, he and his father talked all the time. He listened.
Right.
So he got a lot of the wise counsel from his father, and he was very intellectual anyway, because remember, they sent him, they wanted him to be a lawyer. He diverted and went into the military, but so this is somebody who knows how to think on a high level, and so they were certifying him in as Don Vito Andolini Corleone, because he is Andolini. Corleone is just, or Corleone is just the place in Italy that they're from.
Right.
That's when they picked up the name. So what was going on in Corleone, Italy at the beginning of the film?
The funeral for his father.
Okay. And so at the funeral, what happens?
Somebody got shot.
His brother got smoked.
His brother got smoked. And why did his brother get smoked?
Because if the brother doesn't die, he would come back and do what Michael does.
His brother swore revenge against Don Chichi, who murdered his father. And why did Don Chichi murder his father?
Because his pops disrespected him.
By doing what?
See, his mother said it. I don't recall if they said specifically what he did.
He didn't want to roll with it.
Okay, all right, I'll take that.
He didn't want to get down. And so because he didn't want to get down with him, they eliminated him.
Yep.
So Vito's mother goes to Don Chichi to beg for mercy for her only remaining child, Vito. And Don Chichi says no. So his mother attempted to take him out.
That's right.
Which gave Vito an opportunity to run. And of course, they take her out there. And of course, he had some, and it was interesting, his family members had to have some goddamn courage because they were going around everywhere. Anybody who hiding him. And the psychological games that they're playing, because it's like, if you just bring him out now.
Right. After you done killed his father and his brother, and they probably knew his mom was gone. And let me say, Brother Craig, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very, very, very interesting that his mother had the knife hidden in her boot just in case it didn't work out. So she was ready to make that move. Yeah. She had already committed herself. If this don't work out, I got to kill this dude because he's gonna try and kill my child. So she was already in that frame, that mind frame of thinking that I might have to kill this guy if he don't let my child go.
Yeah,
I thought that was heavy. And she pulled that knife fast too. I'm like, damn.
Exactly. So of course Vito runs from the scene and hides out until he's smuggled and sent to America. And when he arrives in America at Ellis Island, he receives the name Vito Corleone. And when he and of course he heard him talk, say a goddamn thing at all until he's finally in a room alone. And then we finally hear him speak through singing. And this was in 1901. So this is Michael reflecting on, so when you ask, how does he know these things? Michael is reflecting on what his father had already taught him. So if he's able to remember these things, you can just imagine how much information that his father taught him. So that's how he was able to actually know. So, all right, so after this scene, where does the film jump to after the singing scene? Where does the film jump to at that point?
After what scene?
After, Vito as a child coming to Ellis Island and he's singing, where does the film jump to?
I don't know.
All right, so the film jumps to the grandson's communion, first communion.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the reason
the party, right? The party?
No, it jumps to the communion first.
Oh, okay.
This is Vito's son because it jumps from 1901 to 1958.
Okay.
And so this is where Michael's son is born. Okay, so this is Vito's grandson. So the thing you gotta understand, they're willing to play the charade all the way through with the religion, with the politics, with the legal businesses.
Right.
It's all a facade. It's and Mike talks about the hypocrisy of this whole thing.
That's right.
But see, our people don't get this at all.
Yep.
Because they really believe that this shit is real. and they really believe that there's some objectivity to this shit. And as I told my ex-wife this morning, I don't think the creator and the ancestors would be mad at you for walking away. You put a lot of work in, and I get it. I mean, Shreveport offers me an opportunity to deal with some folks who are plugged in, but I'm close enough to Dallas, Houston, and these other places where now we can pull people in. But to start to come into this thing she came into this thing in her mid to late 30s, to come to this thing in your mid to late 30s and try to figure this shit out, and you're supposed to be the leader, is very difficult because there's too many layers to this thing.
Yeah.
And our people just don't get it. All right, so now the film jumps to the family.
And real quick, Craig, what's sad about our people not getting it it always is always interesting to me how what we talk about, especially when it comes to historical movies, what we talk about in the movie reviews, we're proving it in the Revolutionary Code.
Oh yeah.
But of course, people aren't coming to both to make that connection, which is another reason why they don't get it, because they don't want to learn it, or they think they already know it and they don't.
There's no way that you're going to. None of these people are going to give you insight into how this thing rocks. Yeah. So unless you're doing some hell of a research or looking at their epic movies and documentaries in order to gauge how this thing works, you ain't gonna never figure this shit out. Right. And I'm so proud of Steve Coakley for making sure that I would look at these epic films, because like he said in 1995 when I first saw his video, they're so arrogant that they're gonna tell you the truth in their goddamn film.
Yep.
If you're willing to take the time and look at them. Because now the film jumps, just like the first film did, Godfather Part 1, it jumps to where? The family property, where they're having a large event with the politicians and the movers and shakers. And this, what is the large event? The wedding, another, this one is the communion celebration, right, for Anthony, because they're going to make the check out to the university and the endowment.
That's right.
So they're really, when I tell you they go to the extent of trying to legitimize themselves, because now they're in Nevada.
Yep.
And so they're trying to maneuver on that end. So now Anthony is seeing all of the various people. And so Mike donates a check to the University of Nevada to establish an endowment in the name of his son, Anthony Vito Corleone. And this was presented by the senator
who mispronounced his name, by the way. I'm like, come on, man, that's disrespectful.
And why?
On purpose.
On purpose.
And why was this important? It's showing you right there the importance of politics, governmental politics.
You got to have them.
Ain't no way to get around it.
That's right.
So now the senator has his meeting with Mike, and he tells, he wanted to speak to him privately, but he said, shit, okay, if you want your folks to feel, I'm gonna speak frank to you. And he tells Mike that his sources tell him that he's trying to make a move on another casino, and he wants Klingman out. So now Mike is like, okay, he and Tom looking at each other, like, where would he get this from? This is the first kind of like clue that Fredo is talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is family business. So how would you hear that?
Yeah.
How would you know that? So the senator said, hey, I ain't gonna get in your way, but I want $250,000 plus 5% of the gross
plus
of all hotels.
You're just greedy.
and when Shannon talks about Mike gangster nature and how clever and analytical he is, this is one of the most cold-blooded scenes in any movie that I've ever seen. And the senator say, I'll be expecting your answer, anytime, pretty soon. Mike say, shit, I can give you my answer.
No.
And so he has to frame it for the senator. So let me get this straight. The price of the license is under $20,000. And so he says, why would I consider such an offer? And the senator tells him he plans to squeeze him for every dime that he can. And he proceeds to disrespect him and his Italian culture. He said he despises his kind. This is where Mike Ice Cold comes in. He never flinched. Typical Negro, but he got pissed off and whatnot. And this is the part, Buddy, where he says,
Yep.
all a part of the same
hypocrisy. That's right.
But never think that applies to his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so the senator tells Mike, well, everybody has to play little games. You play yours, and I'll play mine. And he tells Mike he wants to have an answer by tomorrow and to never contact him directly again. And to go through his assistant. And that's when Mike says, I can give you the goddamn answer now. Nothing. Nothing. Not even the gaming fee. As a matter of fact, motherfucker, I would appreciate if you pay it for me. Now, in order for him to tell the senator that, what do we know has to be on point? In order for him to tell the senator that.
Yeah, I'm thinking his intel has to be on point, and he must know the senator's vices.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you don't already have dirt on him.
Exactly. Would you agree, Sister Sharon?
Yes, totally. He already had him by the kahunas, pretty much.
Exactly. That's the only reason he would make such a statement.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point person for the committee, the gaming committee that he has to go through in terms of getting the license. So it was just beautiful. So now Mike has a meeting with Johnny Ola, who represents Hiram Roth. Now, who is Hiram Roth in real life in this film? Hiram Roth, because this is a historical film now.
Yeah.
This film is real now.
Yeah.
Hiram Roth is the character for what real life gangster character?
Mo Green? No.
It's you said Mo Green, because Mo Green was a fictional character for what gangster? Because Mo Green is from Godfather Part 1. So who is Mo Green in real life?
He is the dude who founded Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
His name? Shoot, I forgot both those guys' names. I know you're talking about, but I can't remember their names. Can I cheat and go to Google?
I did.
But wait, I tell you what. Bernie Siegel, right?
Yeah, Bugsy Siegel.
That's the rapper. Yeah, Bugsy Siegel is Mo Green, and the Jewish mobster, his name is, what's his initials?
I ain't gonna tell you.
Meyer Lansky.
There you go.
Meyer Lansky.
Who of course, real people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, so this film is giving you the historical account of really what was going on at that time in terms of how the Vegas thing got created, the strip. All of this starts with the so-called Jewish mafia being bankrolled by the Italian mafia. So they worked together. They didn't like each other, but they collaborated. You know, the so-called Jews had the intellectual construct of money, finance, things of that nature. And then the Italians were, maneuvered on their way. So what's our mafia?
What's our what?
What's our mafia? What's the Negro mafia?
Oh, what's our mafia? Oh, a church?
We've had a few to try to exist, but again, because they lack any cultural connectivity, they always end up preying on their own people. See, these folks preyed on everybody else. Our so-called gangsters prey on us.
But isn't it also true that where these other cultural gangster organizations, they're able to be supported by and are partnered with the political apparatus in their locations, but that same political apparatus, it attacks us. It attacks our gangsters. So it's we have to say that it's not just us preying on our own because we do that, but it's also the fact that we get attacked by the government as opposed to the government working with these other groups.
Well,
we kind of give them permission, by us keep attacking each other. We give them permission, like
exactly.
we disrespect ourselves. So it's like they're like, okay,
okay,
Exactly.
I can see that.
Exactly. When you disrespect yourself, you're already behind the white ball. You're already behind the white ball because it's their system. So if you disrespect yourself, how do you gain any respect from them?
Right.
And so, because now you have to maneuver in a cracker world, and you got to create your own political apparatus, because the rules for them don't apply to you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They don't apply to you. You have to create your politicians now. Now we flip back. This is why you have to compare and contrast films and shows and documentaries. Now what do we flip back to? The Godfather of Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
Because our main character in that film is navigated with the political apparatus, but the political apparatus is playing the games, so he doesn't have full cover. So he's having to maneuver through who? The Italian mafia and some of their political contacts. Yeah. So he never really has true cover.
Right. Right. And he's trying to, and he's maneuvering with the political and the religious.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes him so powerful. Because he gets it. Because he gets it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now Mike, there's a meeting with his sister and new fiance, and she wants money, and the dude is like, I love your sister. And you're going to let me get this straight. You're going to her family's house, and you're having her ask for money.
But you love her.
Okay, and this dude is the head gangster in America.
Stupid.
Yeah, I don't even know why you even want to be with her, because you know you're gonna get killed.
That's right.
But you know, when you're retarded, you don't know no better. So the family dinner table, Fredo's wife is embarrassing him, so he shows how weak he is. And so of course, Mike lets it be known, if you can't handle your goddamn wife, we gonna have to put her punk ass in check. So Mike meets with his old school soldier, Frank Tangalia, that's who Shannon was talking about, to discuss the Rosado brothers in New York, who have a part of his territory. And Pantangalia wants them dead, but what's the politics there? Who do they work for?
Who does who work for? Pantangalini?
The Rosado brothers.
Oh, they work for the Jewish dude.
Exactly. So they're working for Hiram Roth. So Mike is doing business with Hiram Roth. So now Mike has a huge dilemma. And he can't tell Pantangalia the full scope. And so now you got a lot of confusion going on. Okay. And so this is very, very interesting. So as the day winds down, now what ends up happening that night?
He leaves.
Huh?
Mike leaves.
No, before Mike leaves, what happens?
Oh, there's the tip on his life.
Yeah, they try to,
tried to take him out at the house.
Yeah. And I love how he puts it together so fast. Why these damn windows open? These damn curtains open? Oh shit! Yeah, he's clicking.
Okay, yeah. Intel is very important. Intel is very important. So they find two males dead who were suspected of doing the hit, but that was just to throw off the scent from the real perpetrator, which we ultimately find out is who?
The Jewish dude.
The ultimate perpetrator is who?
I mean, Fredo and Pantancelli.
Exactly. Fredo is the ultimate perpetrator.
Yeah, yeah,
Because he's supplying information. Is that why you're saying that?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's how they knew everything. I mean, and yeah, he was the end. He was the mole.
Exactly. And that's why I say this is the infrastructure film here, because Mike has to set his infrastructure up like his father set his infrastructure up. So you got a clean house, even if it's your own goddamn blood.
Yeah.
So Mike meets with Tom to tell him he has to leave town, and he's putting everything under his control. And you'll see in the film how Mike knows everything about every goddamn.
That's right. Yeah. 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 He has an intelligence networking system, and he pays attention to everybody.
Everybody.
And why does he do that? Why does he do that?
Because people are human, we all have vices, and he understands that.
What you say, Shannon?
You have to know who you're dealing with and how to play them. I mean, to a certain extent.
Exactly. And Tamani hit on it as well. The majority of people are going to have vice. And you got to know where your people and their vices are at, and you have to be able to see how close you will allow them to be to you, connected to you, because that's going to determine how you maneuver and how you allow them to maneuver. It's always a constant chess game. So now the film jumps to an older Vito Corleone.
And you know, Brother Craig, from that point alone, if more of our national leaders or even organizations, if you think of Malcolm, Fred Hampton, the Panthers, Garvey, if they had that approach of understanding the vices of the people around them,
exactly,
they probably wouldn't have been assassinated or killed or whatever, because they would know by the people.
Exactly. And this again is why you have to understand these films, because you can clearly see intelligence gathering wasn't anything that King and the SDLC did
at all.
Intelligence gathering wasn't anything that Malcolm was doing. The nation was gathering intel to some degree on him, but they weren't gathering intel on the goddamn government. And so without intelligence gathering, you're asked out. I mean, and even if you're not able to do it on a high level, it has to be a part of your goddamn game plan.
Yeah.
Because without it, if your mind is never on the betrayal factor and how these things work, you're gonna automatically get set up.
Yeah, and it's amazing that on one hand you're talking about the evil white man system thing, but you're doing no intel gathering on this evil white man system thing. When you think about it, it's like that don't make any sense.
It don't make any guy, and that's why I say the Negro really wants this white entity to just treat them
do right.
Hey, and it's never gonna happen. And which goes back to an earlier point I wanted to tell you with Pablo seeking to take out Don Chichi. The Negro is always with this stupid shit, just they don't even know what the hell that means. But who do they want? Who does the Negro demand justice from?
The government, right?
The very person who's raping, robbing, killing, and stealing from them.
And they've proven to you multiple times they don't care.
Man, when you really sit and think about this, and the way that the Negro mind works, they're so afraid of taking out somebody who has done them wrong on a for real. That's one thing. If it's something civil or something like that, I can kind of see playing the game with the court system. But somebody kill your mama, your son, your child, your any relative, your wife, your husband. What are we talking about? I ain't this one rapper, I saw this one rapper was asked a question, what if they killed your mom? He said, what would you want the police to do? And the dude was like, nothing. and the dude was like, what, you wouldn't want the police to? He said, no. But that ain't going, it wouldn't even be no question about what's going to happen. And the interviewer didn't even understand where the youngster was going.
Okay, so he was saying nothing because he would take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you. All right.
It ain't nothing we need for the police if somebody killed my mom.
Right.
Boy, you crazy as hell. It wouldn't. There's a family here, and turns out I'm related to them now, the Savannah. And old man Savannah had a son, Eddie Savannah, who was murdered by this guy. And this guy got arrested. Mr. Savannah now put up the bond money for the dude to get out of jail. You do know the dude stayed in jail, right?
Yeah.
Because Mr. Savannah didn't want him out of jail.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The dude had some sense.
I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm just gonna
I'm
stay.
good.
I reject that bond. I'm good right where I'm at.
Yeah. And so this is where it's at. But most of our people, they're looking for the government to handle this. So the film jumps to an older Vito Corleone in 1917, and he attends a play with his friend and learns about Don Finucci, the so-called Black Hand. And so Vito is the first encounter. That's his first encounter with Don Finucci indirectly, but his first encounter directly, he loses his job.
Mm-hmm.
Because Don Finucci needed a job for his nephew.
Right.
So, Vito is about principle. He don't want nothing given to him that he ain't worked for and he ain't earned. I thought that was very important. So this really shows you also, if you're listening to the name, how he met Clemenza. Because he meets Clemenza, who Clemenza in Godfather Part 1 is the fat guy, right? So in this particular film, he's not as fat, but he meets Clemenza and they begin their teamwork. And the first time he meets Clemenza wants him to hide some guns and whatnot. So Clemenza already was about that life. So the first thing that they do is steal a rug.
Yeah.
Clemenza say, "This is my friend's house."
Yeah.
Then I'm
you need this rug for you and your wife. I got you.
You need that. So now so you got to follow the film because the film is jumping from different segments. So now the film jumps to Mike meeting with Hiram Roth in Miami, and he tells Roth that it was Pantangalia who tried to kill him. So what is he doing at that moment?
Gathering intel.
Gathering intel, and what else?
What is Michael doing? He's probably trying to see who's going to tell the truth and lie to him.
Yeah, well, Sister Shan says he's gathering intel, so that's true, but he's doing one other thing. When he tells, what is that called when he tells Roth that Pantangalia tried to kill him? What is that called?
I don't know. Is he trying to get Roth's reaction to Pantangalini trying to kill him?
But what is that called?
Antagonizing him. Okay.
I don't know. Baiting? I don't know.
Counterintelligence.
Antagonize. Okay.
That's counterintelligence. That's disinformation. That's misinformation.
Okay.
So he's doing the counter intel to Hiram Roth because he wants to see Hiram Roth's reaction because he wants Hiram Roth to believe that he's not as smart as he is, and having already known is Hiram Roth. So he wants Hiram Ross to believe he's tricked him.
Right.
You feel me?
Yep.
So he's putting the counter intel out. So Mike travels to New York to meet with Frank Pentanglia, and he tells them now that Hiram Ross tried to have him killed.
Right.
He tells Frank that he must deal with the Rosado brothers so that Hiram Ross trusts him. Frank is staying at their old home. So this is over Pentanglia's head. He's like, I just don't have it, Mike. This shit is too complex for me. I'm just basic.
Mm-hmm.
But he's actually telling Pentanglia the truth. But because Mike is dealing with who?
Rock.
Hiram Rock and the Rosado.
Yeah.
Pentanglia don't know what to believe.
Right.
Because now we're dealing with what concept? What is that concept called? Frank didn't now trust really Mike because Mike is dealing with the Jewish mafia. So because he's not trusting him, what is that concept called?
The concept of Pentangeli not trusting Mike?
Yeah, it's based on what? Because Mike is involved with Hiram Ross and the Rosado brothers. What is it? Why is he not trusted? What is that concept called?
Tribalism?
Huh?
Tribalism?
Identity politics. See, because Mike is identifying with Hiram Ross and the Rosados,
yeah,
because of that political connection, Frank doesn't trust Mike because Frank doesn't see the big picture.
Oh,
and Mike is not going to spell the big picture out for him.
Right.
So because of identity politics, Mike is indirectly creating some questions amidst one of his loyal soldiers.
Okay.
But Mike has a bigger game for who?
His family.
Exactly. That doesn't include who?
Pantangelini's family.
He's a loud mouth.
It doesn't include Pentanglia. Because he's trying to get his family legit and segue out.
Yep.
So he's willing to use Pentanglia as a pawn, bishop, rook, whatever his position is. But he's not going to tell him the truth.
Right.
But
he can't tell him the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wants him to trust him. And this is where we have an issue. So now what ends up happening? Hiram Ross attempts to do what? Have Frank Pentanglia killed.
Oh, yes.
In that bar scene. Okay.
And what happened?
But then Mike Corleone said.
Yeah, Shannon got it. Michael Corleone said.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. I think they kind of blew that scene.
Because they blew the scene because he's not supposed to survive. So saying Michael's name wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. Exactly. They blew that scene there.
Yep.
They blew it. They overthought that scene there. They overthought that scene. Because if he's dead, why does that matter?
Why does that matter?
Okay. But because he survived, now what? The identity politics is really real now.
Right. God damn it, I knew it.
You was gonna try to kill me.
And I'm gonna tell everybody.
And everything.
Now you understand why I say identity politics?
Yep. Yep.
See, now they came back to bite Mike. And so Mike has to counter with identity politics of his own by doing what ultimately as we maneuver in the film. Mike has to do some identity politics of his own in order to flip Pentanglia. And what is that?
Bring his brother into it?
Exactly.
To let him know. I was thinking he had his brother there to say, you mess around and say the wrong thing if you want to. Your brother gonna get got. That's why I think you brought him there.
See, his brother was a gangster in Italy.
Okay.
Italy. Yep.
So it wasn't that Mike was gonna kill the brother. The brother is about that straight up code.
Oh, no snitching.
No snitch.
Oh, okay.
No snitch. So if your brother sees, like his brother, like, man, what the fuck you doing?
And that's what Shannon said in the beginning.
Ain't no word. What's the saying? What's understood don't have to be said.
Boom.
It was understood.
He looked over. It was like, okay.
Yeah, I know what I got to do. I don't know what I was thinking. You see what I'm saying? But again, when you're not on a high level of thinking and you don't fully grasp the full picture, you really can't blame Frank for believing that.
Mm-hmm.
So now the film jumps to the Nevada commission, the legislative hearings, where the senator on the gaming commission is found in a room with a dead prostitute. So
Alfredo's spot.
Okay. So they already knew how to deal with the senator.
Right.
So that's why now Mike knew, oh, okay, we appreciate if you take that for us, bro. Because we already know you, bro.
Yeah, because we know you.
We know you, bro. Tom Hagen is handling the business for the Corleone and family. So now they get what on the senator? What do we call that term that they have on the senator now?
Dirt.
Yeah, but it's a term though.
It's a term. Leverage.
Leverage. So now we see leverage. We see identity politics. We see counterintelligence. We see intelligence. You see, all this is in the film.
Yep. We see commitment.
Culture.
Yep.
Okay.
We see the understanding that you got to have the politicians in your pocket. Yeah.
Exactly. All this is in the film.
Yep.
All this is in the film. So now the film jumps to Havana, Cuba. Mike is there for business with Hiram Roth. And now you see the president of Cuba and the major corporations. So who is the president in real life at that time?
Castro? No, this is before Castro. It had to be Batista, right?
Exactly. Did you understand that one, Shannon?
Yes. That makes sense.
Batista was the president. So who were the rebels, Sister Shannon?
The rebels?
Yeah, in Cuba.
I do not know.
That's Castro's rebel. See, the film is showing you the historical reality of what was going on.
You know who Castro is, right, Shannon?
Huh? Yeah, I know who Fidel Castro is. That makes sense. And that's all I've ever known when you talk about Cuba is Fidel Castro. I've never looked into anything before, or, you know what I'm saying, or any, because that's all I knew growing up in the 80s.
The film is giving you a real life understanding as to how Bautista was now taken out, and they fled where?
Where did Batista flee to?
Yeah.
The U.S., right?
Where?
Oregon or Nevada?
Miami.
Damn it.
This is how the so-called white Cubans get to Miami.
Oh, okay. Okay.
These are all of the Cubans who are anti-Castro were rolling with Bautista.
Yeah, and most of them had money, middle class, upper middle class. Yeah,
Exactly.
so they're doing well. Forget these peasants.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Now, what other film connects this reality? Ironically, Al Pacino played in this film too.
What film?
Scarface?
Exactly. Scarface.
My favorite.
Okay.
Because Al Pacino, remember, they were in the detainment camp.
Right.
Coming in from Cuba.
Right. He was the other side of yeah. He was part of that move with Cuba. Fidel said, "You can have them. They're all criminals anyway."
Exactly. Yeah. And so now he is seen as the Bautista person in that film.
Right. Right. Okay.
And so they make the hit on the person who was supposedly Fidel Castro person, and that's how he gains leverage in Scarface.
Right.
So these films are showing you real life activity.
Sure.
So now Harvey Roth, they meet with the other gangsters to discuss equity and gaming operations, and they bringing it down. And Mike was supposed to have $2 million to close the deal, and he's playing the game ice cold, brother. I just want to, see what's going on.
Yeah, need a little more time.
He has Fredo to bring the $2 million to the hotel.
Well, what's interesting is that we see Hyman Roth also has intelligence because he knows the money has been moved and the money is there.
Exactly.
The money's in your room, sucker.
Exactly.
Chess, man, chess. Or as you might say, dominoes, man, dominoes.
Exactly. Now, if Mike and Fredo are the only goddamn people who supposedly know he got $2 million in cash, how the hell would Hiram Roth already know that?
Yeah, somebody else is talking.
And who is that talking?
It got to be Fredo, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And did you? I was taken aback at how many, in part two, how many white people, seemingly white people, Michael has now surrounding him and working with him. And in the first Godfather, it wasn't like that. Did you notice?
Yeah. But Mike is constantly, which the symbol, to your point, what is the ultimate symbol of what you just got through asking or making the assessment of in terms of white folks being around? What is the ultimate example of what you just said?
Shoot, it has to be connected to Mike being married to the white woman. I don't know, you got to have a white man with you to make it work?
No, that's it. See, Mike was always trying to legitimize himself in his mind in the white world. That was the worst mistake of his life to marry that cracker.
Yeah.
But that was his MO. So that goes to the point that you're making. He needed to be able to maneuver in this realm. So he leveraged himself with the white folks.
Yeah, but wouldn't you open yourself up for infiltration when you go outside of your culture to bring other people in?
Exactly. But Mike understood in his mind he could navigate a maneuver regardless. And I think although the two bodyguards who are loyal to him, although they look straight up European, I think they probably were actually Italian.
Oh, okay.
But on the white Italian side,
they look white
because not all of them look, like a byproduct of us. Some of them do. So now Mike has lunch with Fredo to tell him that it was Hiram Roth who tried to have him killed. He tells him that about the plot that they're going to have him killed in Havana. So what is Mike now doing with Fredo? He's giving him what?
Counterintelligence.
Exactly. He's giving him counterintelligence. Disinformation, misinformation. Even though it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. But what is he trying to do with Fredo?
See if you're gonna go tell.
Exactly. And see if Fredo is gonna finally come clean. Yeah. But he's trying to see if he's the real Mo. He knew it, but he just really wanted to really, really know it.
And I like the scene where Fredo talks too much and Mike is like, God damn.
There you go.
In that particular scene when Fredo says something and Mike is like, damn it. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is I put a star by this point Mike goes to see Hiram Roth in his hotel, but he doesn't have the $2 million. Mike tells Roth that Frank Pantanglia was killed. And he asks him who gave the order, because he's like, I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it really gets, see, now the game plan stops now.
Yeah.
But they're talking in metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Rob tells him the story about a childhood friend. And no one asked who gave the order.
That's right.
He was a good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Now you see how the history is coming together.
Yeah.
And who was that good man in the movie?
Mo Green.
And in real life, he is.
In real life, he is Bernie Siegel.
But yeah, Buzzy Siegel.
I keep saying Bernie. Buzzy Siegel.
Buzzy is his nickname.
Right.
Benny Siegel. Yeah. So, of course, Mike had him eliminated at the end of Godfather Part 1. And so, if you can check all those things out, you can see the history. So now the film jumps to Mike Fredo and Senator Gary and Johnny Ola at the Underground Sex Club.
There you go.
Remember now, Fredo done already said, hey, this is my first time.
I don't know these people.
I know Johnny Ola.
I ain't never met him.
So when are the two times that a person is gonna tell the truth?
When they drunk or when they're a child?
When they're intoxicated or when they're angry?
Angry, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When they're intoxicated and when they're angry. And so Fredo is intoxicated. So he lets it, I mean, he's comfortable because he's in his realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's where Mike learns that Fredo is the mole, because Fredo lets it be known that Johnny Ola brought him there with old man Roth.
Yeah.
And so he had been working with Ola and Roth the whole time. See, Fredo got comfortable and started talking.
Yep. And,
So-
and of course, it goes back to the intel. They knew Fredo was the weak one, which is why they targeted him in the first place, because they were doing their own intel in the family.
Exactly.
He wanted his own.
Yeah.
Remember?
I'm smart.
He ain't stupid. He's smart.
I'm smart.
So of course, Mike, hey, what did y'all think about the hitman, the one with the black suit and the hat on?
I thought he was corny as hell. Corny and obvious.
That dude never spoke.
Yeah. He did his
Said
job
nothing.
though.
Just mute.
He went and took Johnny Ola out. See now, this is interesting because with Negroes, you know, they gonna always try to shoot your ass or whatever. Sometimes you gotta get up close and personal.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Choke Johnny Ola ass out. But of course, Roth survives when he tried to do the hit in the hospital and the guard is killed. So during the New Year's Eve party, Mike, now they're having the New Year's Eve party with the president, and Mike told Fredo, I knew it was him.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was him. And I don't know what Mike thought Fredo was, because Fredo know.
Yeah.
He ran.
Come on, get in the car. We got to go. I ain't getting in that car.
They're like, no.
I'll find my own way back.
Yeah, so the Cuban rebels won the war of Fidel Castro. And I said here, this is great history. Fredo is shit scared. So now
Fredo what?
I said he was shit scared.
Okay.
Fredo.
Yeah.
So now the film jumps to Mike going home to Nevada. Tom gives him the updates on Roth, Johnny Ola, and Fredo. And Tom tells him that Kate lost the baby. And so the film then jumps to the young Vito being told by Don Fanucci that he and his friends must pay him $600 a week to wear this beat, or he will report him to the police.
Yeah.
And so again, what Mike is doing is going back at various times that his dad has told him different things, and learning the wisdom of his dad at various points.
Yeah.
And how he became the Godfather was very clever, because now Vito has a meeting with his two partners and tells them what Don Fanucci said there. And he said, but if you all pay me, I'm going to handle it. So they agree to pay Fanucci the $200 each, but Vito tells them they should not pay. He tells them that two bookies do not pay. And Vito tells them to give him 50 each.
That's right.
And he will take care of Fanucci. So think about that. Goddamn me, Vito is giving them $150 discount. Give me 50 and I'm gonna handle it. And this is where we start to hear his famous saying, I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
That's right.
And so, and he will take care of Fanucci and influence him to accept the 100 versus the 600. His partners agree, they give him their 50 in the other scene. So he meets with Fanucci, and this is very important, because he meets with Fanucci and gives him the 100 versus the 600. And what does Fanucci do?
Initially, or?
Initially,
he's like, that don't look like it's enough money. That's only $100. And he count that fast. I'm like, how does he know that so fast by looking at it? So he puts his hat on it, slides it over. That ain't enough money.
And then what happened?
Mike says, I know it's not all there, but times are tight. Give me a minute, we'll work on it.
So then what happened?
Fanucci accepts the money.
Then what happened?
All this is still, they're still inside the restaurant or the little business?
They're still in the restaurant.
I don't know.
Fanucci, do you know, Shannon?
No.
Fanucci applauds him.
Oh, right. He tries to actually hire him. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He applauds him because you got courage and nuts.
Right.
He was impressed.
Right. Yeah.
So Vito, now what do we understand? What's this concept? This is the psychology of the game.
What, you got to be brave?
The
You gotta be unafraid?
psychology of the game.
Psychology. Okay. Okay.
This was the psychology of the game. Because he played psychology on who first?
On his partners first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let me take care of it. Just give me a little bit and let me take care of it.
Because what did he know he had to do?
Kill Fanucci.
Exactly.
He had to get him out the way because he's thinking, hell, everybody ain't paying him, so everybody can't be afraid.
Exactly.
He probably said he's only a man.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So now we get into the psychology of the overall situation, and Vito understands this far better than his friends Clemenza and the other cats. So Vito takes the opportunity to kill Fanucci at his apartment while all the festivities are going on. He eliminated the competition, and he became the new protection for the Italian businesses in the community. And the word got out. The word got out.
Yeah. Because
they ain't see Don Fanucci anymore, and shit, this the new cat.
Right.
And so Vito discards of the gun and joins his family to establish his alibi, and it was beautiful. So now the film jumps to Mike back home in Nevada during the winter. Kate is sewing. Of course, he's thinking that she lost the baby. So now the film jumps to Chi-Chi being questioned by the Nevada Gaming Commission about the Corleone family, and Chi-Chi is the hitman with he's the hitman with the Pantangalia. He's the hitman with Pantangalia. Hold on one second.
Brother Craig keeps saying Pantangelia. I keep saying Pantangelini. Hopefully he'll catch on that he's saying his name wrong. He's talking about Fredo. I'm like, it's Fredo. I'm gonna just have to say, you know, you said his name wrong, right? Pantangelia. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah, this movie was very interesting. There was a few
this movie's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, where I was like, wait a minute. And I watched it a few times. Actually, I think I watched it probably 3 times. Even as long as it was, I had to watch it to kind of understand and understand some of the things because it's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
And that's the beauty of the movie review, Shannon, because you will say, I've seen that movie, but after the reviews, you're like, did I see that movie? And that's why it's so important that people show up, because you miss stuff because you're just not looking at it a certain way. But anyway, go ahead, Brother Craig.
Exactly. So now the film jumps back to Mike at his home, having a conversation with his mother about his father's thoughts.
Yeah.
So yet again, Tamani was asking, how did he know all of these things? And because he was willing to listen and have the wisdom, all of that was, laid out from that standpoint.
And that's an interesting point, Brother Craig, because Vito had 3 sons.
Yeah.
And Michael is willing to listen. And I can only assume that his father probably imparted more knowledge and information into Michael because he understood that Michael was different.
Exactly. And what courageous grassroots revolutionary leader do we know was pretty much with the same relationship with his father?
Got to be Malcolm, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Malcolm had a gang of brothers.
Right.
But Malcolm said in his book, his father only took him to the UNI.
Yeah.
He didn't take the other brothers. So it's something that can be seen, and we can see goddamn why Don Corleone didn't deal with Fredo. I'm smart.
I can do this too. You're not that. And when he said that, I said, you are an idiot. Like.
And then we know Sonny was hot-headed.
Yep.
And so Mike he had the gangster, but here's my concept of intellectual gangsterism. Because you got to be able to be ice cold under pressure and know how to maneuver this whole thing.
And what's interesting is that and we see this not only in movies but throughout history, that the individualism, the I, my, me. That destroys the group and the nation every single time. You thinking about yourself and you jeopardizing us, fool.
Exactly. So now the film jumps back to young Vito, who is now the man in the community. His wife asks him to help her friend. This was great. Who was evicted. Vito goes to talk with the landlord and convinces him to allow her to stay for an additional fee each month. And he works this out with the dude and let the dog stay as well. And the landlord finds out who he is. So he came back to give him the money back, and he lowers the rent by $10 each month. And so I had here, Vito's reputation is impeccable. And Vito begins elevating what? His legitimate business ventures.
Right.
So this is a very important component, as Shannon, as I've told the money and other people that I've learned over these past 27 years of doing this work. The thing that I've learned is just like the gangsters have their legitimate businesses to cover up their illegal businesses, we have to be able to have legitimate businesses to now subsidize our grassroots empowerment work.
That's right.
And so can you all really understand the importance of that? And so this is where we have to actually be in terms of the overall get down. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Oh yeah.
Perfect sense. Because as you always say, we live in a multi-dimensional reality. You can't just you can't do anything in one space and think it's going to work for the overall mission.
So why do you think other grassroots people have never understood the importance of entrepreneurship, us having businesses in order to do what we have to do to help empower our people?
I can only assume that A, they've never seen anybody else do that. B, the people who have done it, like the brothers who ran the banks, who were buying banks in damn Jim Crow, they're not aware of those who have done it. And C, they want somebody to give it to them. They don't want to do the work. Ignorance, maybe that's D. I'll say all of those things.
I was going to say most of those, but also if we were to just kind of step outside of ourselves and get out of the hood and look at other cultures, i.e., the Latinos or, the Asians, they built their own communities and their own stuff. They have their own gangsters and, their own levels to their whole thing, but we don't know how to get along to accomplish that goal and then go back to not liking each other. It's always that I can't stand you. We let that I can't stand you get in the way of accomplishing the bigger goal. So, like I said, you see a lot of Latinos and Asians have their own businesses and they keep that money circling within their community. It's rare where they really cipher that dollar out into something else. And if they do it intelligently, I guess you could say.
But Shannon, the gangsters, even in the Negro community, understand the importance of front businesses.
Yeah.
So what I'm actually talking about are the grassroots advocates. See, grassroots advocates, think about this now. So when I talk about myself being a corporate grassroots revolutionary, like I have to work on multiple projects. Like right now, I got a multi-million-dollar art project I'm working on. I'm doing Dads on Duty. I'm doing running for office. I'm doing all these things because you got to be able to have sustainability in order to do the advocacy.
Yeah.
The gangsters are using their legitimate businesses as fronts to continue to do their illegitimate shit.
Yeah.
We have to use legitimate businesses to sustain our advocacy work.
Because you got to be able to control your time. You got to own your time.
Control your time.
Yep.
Ain't no way to get around that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
One second, yeah.
Which is why I won't go punch the clock for nobody else ever again in my life.
Amen. It's not easy, but it's a must do. It's a must do.
No, it is not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy. I say that all the time, but it's the best decision I could have ever made for myself
Yes, ma'am.
2 years ago.
I'm with you 100%. And that's one of the reasons why so many people don't get involved in or don't do more, because they got to get that check. And I don't hate them for that, because I understand. But if you get to the point where you allow that check to control any and everything you do, you're always going to be a slave, always. Yeah.
And you're so right.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that we, BGN, we have businesses so we can employ our people. Yep. So that, if a check is going to keep you focused, then let it be a check from a righteous organization. So at least we can get you focused on some righteousness.
Yep. Which is why, and it's crazy because I was kind of reluctant to make the switch on my own. I still, those doubts crept in, and the Most High made it happen anyway. Like, I'm going to just shake everything up and make sure that you do exactly what you were supposed to do, which is why I made the switch to Brother Vincent's business and everything. Yeah. So everything's just falling in line.
Shannon, what business are you focused on right now? Because I've been, Tamani has been trying to figure this thing out, and this is the dilemma that I've seen with the majority of people who try to get into space. And it's like with my ex-wife, it's the frustrating thing with her. And I've tried to work with her, although she's my client now, on the nonprofit, and she's such in an employee mindset that even though she got a great foundation for the business, she is not focused on entrepreneurship. So what's your business? What's your thought right now on your business?
So I have a few of them. My first one, I bake, so I'm a baker. But right now, what I did was I dissolved my financial literacy or my credit repair business to go up under someone else. I was an agent under another entity who the key exec owners are white, pretty much. They're not black. So I dissolved that to go up under Brother Vincent, who is part of the Black Gold Nation, and we actually are going to interview him. But it's a Black-owned business right here in Denver, Colorado. It's called Park Hill Financial District, and it's a Black-owned business. So why not pull everything that I learned from here and pull it up under him, where not only am I working with my people, but I'm working in my community. He has a very strong presence here in Denver in the community. And we too are also working on some proposals and a lot of things. So like I was telling Brother Tamani, I was reluctant, you know what I'm saying, to kind of do it, and the Most High shook things up and did it anyway for me without, you know what I'm saying, like I told you to listen and just make that switch, but I still had some doubts because I had an agent under the other credit repair business, and I mean, he ended up falling off right in time for me to just make that switch. So I'm thankful for it because I have not worked for anybody. I've not punched the clock for anybody else in 2 years. And like I was telling Tamani, I will never go back to doing that because my calling to this, the movement and progressing the Black people forward, is so much more important than going to go punch the clock for a couple pennies at that time. So, and it's not easy. No, I struggle, but everything's coming into place for us to be able to get some grants and stuff and proposals to be able to fund small Black businesses or minority businesses. So, yeah.
And what's y'all's services that y'all gonna provide?
So he does credit repair as well as business, helping people get business credit. He's done things, he gives back to the kids he does financial literacy for the kids. He has a backpack giveaway every summer for the kids. But I mean, he does a lot. He also incorporated health and life insurance. One of his other partners does health and life insurance, which I also have a health and life insurance license as well. So it was just smarter for me to pull everything that I'm doing up under this Black-owned business as opposed to another race or entity.
All right, Tamani, have you figured your thing out yet?
Yeah, she left off the biggest part. I think he's also heavy into crypto and NFTs, which is what I'm.
Yeah. So he is into the crypto, the NFT, blockchain space. So I actually just
in a big way.
Bitcoin.
In a big way.
Mm-hmm. The guy that you are maneuvering with is in the NFT?
Yes. And we're working on a few different projects right now. So, and I'm trying to bring that project into the Black Gold Nation and use that as a way to fund the inauguration. Yeah, so I'm working on some stuff.
Okay. And then Tamani, on your end?
Two things. I'm going to do, I've already started working on doing what you want to do with dominoes. I want to do it with spades, and also the Black speaking tour debate lecture thing is also going to be the second one. And I want to launch both those in the next month and a half, 2 months.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get back. Okay. So now the film switches to the mafia hearings in Nevada, and Mike is on the witness stand. He denies everything about being the head of the mafia. So that was very interesting. The film jumps to Mike at home having a conversation with Tom Heyman. And Tom gives Mike updates on Roth, Pantangalia, and Fredo. And Mike wants to meet with Fredo.
You know, it's Fredo, right?
Fredo shit.
And it's Angelini. Shay and I were laughing at you.
Tell her it didn't matter. I don't give a damn what it.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care what these people's name is. I'm gonna call him what I want to.
Exactly. So now, Mike meets with Fredo to gain the intel, and he tells Fredo that he has nothing. He has nothing for him, and Fredo has to explain why he sold out Mike and his family. And this is where he said, Fredo, I've always taken care of you. And he's like, that's the part that you're talking about, Shannon. And he says, I'm your older brother. I've never need you to take care of me. I'm smart. I can do things. And this is where we now find, even in families, you have politics that exist.
Yes, sir.
And so, Shannon, when you see my 6 pillars of empowerment, and I talk about politics in terms of the definition, it's not just governmental politics.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand what politics really is. So that's why I discussed within this film identity politics, the marital politics. You have politics floating all around because
everywhere.
Now we're dealing with the agendas of individuals and groups of individuals. That's what politics really gets down to. So now the film jumps back to the Senate hearings on the mafia. Mike enters a room with Frank Pantangelia's brother, and as we already said, identity politics at place. Frank changes his entire testimony, and Mike wins the hearing. Yep. So again, we get back to relationships that are actually being connected. Now the film jumps to Kate telling Mike that she's leaving. Mike tells her they were leaving tomorrow, and he's thinking still that she lost a child, but she tells him right there it wasn't a miscarriage. It was actually an abortion, which now, Tamani, is why I said when you made the reference to him having all the white folks around, the ultimate white person is the wife, and it made no sense.
At all. At all.
So, but he was trying to fit into the paradigm of the white structure.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the first wife would have been perfect, but of course she gets assassinated.
Yeah. And this is where I thought was interesting, and it brought me back to something that Brother Craig said. She decided to abort, because she wanted it to end somewhere. She wanted that evil to stop. And
that's and she was brave to say that. I'm like, do you know
man, yeah. So neutralize the evil. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you know that something is born evil, whatever, what do? We neutralize. And that's what she did. But she didn't know what she was doing either on that same token when she was like, oh, I'm gonna stop this family, thing of you, and I don't want your other son pretty much getting into this type of environment.
Brave.
And yeah, she ultimately screwed herself in that sense. But
yeah. And all that's on Mike though, because you're trying to convert this lily white chick into the thing. And that's not for it. Had he, like Tamani said, if the first wife didn't get killed, that would have been a better situation for him. But he came back to what is familiar to him, I guess, because she was already aware of a few things that was there. So now the film jumps back to the younger Vito going back to Corleone, Italy with his family. Had the great celebration, and Vito goes back to settle the score with Don Chitti. I loved it. The man who had his father, brother, and mother murdered. And like Tamani said, he gutted him. And
like a fish.
that was worse than a fish.
Man.
And so again, that's how you know how Mike knows how to maneuver, because he's flashing back to these things that his father has taught him.
Yeah, like Don Chi-Chi didn't even have any idea who Vito Corleone is. Come here, get closer to me. Come here, come on. You idiot. You had no clue. You forgot all about it.
Well, think about it now. That was in 1958.
Long time ago.
And so his father came to America in 1901.
Oh, I know.
So we're talking in the 60s, so a lot of time had passed.
Yeah, and he probably killed more than one person. So, he was older, he probably forgot.
Exactly.
And he didn't set up his exit strategy and pass that information down to someone younger, so that could have protected him in a sense that knew what was going on. That's why you never forget the people that you cross.
Exactly. So now the film jumps to present day. Mike's mother died, and y'all know what Mike said. So they're having a funeral, and Fredo wants to see Mike, and Mike finally agrees, but his head of security knows that Fredo must die.
Right.
And so now the film jumps to Mike having a meeting with Tom and the security guard, and Tom gives Mike an update on Roth trying to get into Israel and Panama, and Mike checks Tom to make sure he's on board with the family business. He knows that Tom has a mistress, and he lets it all know. So he wants to see where Tom is at because he's really building his infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And so when you're building your infrastructure, you got to be able to trust everybody who, especially your conciliary, your legal person who's actually going to be handling a lot of your business. And so this is the part that Tamani referenced earlier. Tom asked Mike, and this was cold-blooded, why does he want everybody dead? And Mike tells him that he doesn't want everyone dead, just his enemy.
That's right.
All of them.
That's right.
He wants all of them dead. And so that was a very important part. So Tom goes to see Frank Pantanglia in the federal prison and encourages him to kill himself, but making sure that his family is taken care of.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of poetic how they had that conversation too.
Oh yeah, it was very
nice. Yeah, it was very clear on what we were saying.
And he took care, and they would take care of his family. Then the film jumped to Kate coming to see the children. Of course, Mike closed the door in her face because she is totally dirt at this point. Now the film jumps to Fredo getting ready to fish with Anthony and the security guard. And of course, everything has to have a setup. So Connie is like, your dad changed his mind. He wants you to go with him because now you got to get killed.
Yeah.
And so Fredo had to actually die. And the game, and in each one of these films, although this is the infrastructure film, Tamani, at the end of every film is what? He does what at the end of each film?
Michael?
Yeah. He handles the family business.
Yeah. Honestly, he takes everybody out.
Everybody.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that.
This one wasn't as hard as part 1 and part 3, but, it was definitely in the mix. So now the film jumps to High Rock at the airport. And now the bodyguard handles that particular business. Frank commits suicide, and then the other bodyguard takes out Fredo. And so now the film jumps to Mike reflecting on the family dinner with Sonny, Fredo, Connie, Tom, and others. And ultimately the film ends with Mike in deep thought about a lot of things as the Don of the Corleone family. And what I have here is that the film is about the construction of the Corleone Mafia Foundation from his father to him. And 3 very important things that I put: self-interest that conflict with group interest. We have an issue. Loyalty versus tokenism. Fredo versus Mike's bodyguard. Tate versus an Italian female who is Mike's mom. So when you look at the loyalty versus the tokenism, that's a very big thing. And then culture, Italian, pseudo-Jew versus Negro. They have it, we don't. And whether it is doing something on a positive tip or doing something on a negative tip, like in the film, without a cultural construct, you're open for destruction. Yeah. That's just the bottom line. Yeah. And we got to have two things because of the slave mentality that we have. You got to have the spirituality to detox yourself, which also serves as your power and your protection to now set the right cultural infrastructure in place. And this is why we continue to lose this fight that we're in. Yes, sir. All right. That's all I got. Questions?
I don't got one.
No, none for me either. I'm just, what's the next movie? Part 3?
Yeah, we might as well go to knock out part 3, which I hate part 3 because it makes me want part 4 and they ain't did part 4. And now, oh boy, done got old. What you call it? He was a big time actor at first, but he ain't been in nothing, man. He must have did something.
Who, Pacino?
Pacino?
No. You know, Pacino dies in 3, but the nephew, Vincent.
The one who plays his nephew in number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Name? I know who you're talking about because I like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah. He ain't been in. But when I tell you they put the muzzle on him, Mel Gibson.
Definitely Mel Gibson.
Bro, they ain't in shit. And Bruce Willis in nothing but G movies are
right.
Yeah.
Straight to streaming.
You know, he in some bullshit. Like. But 4, I really would like to see a 4 to climax it because I really want to see how he was going to maneuver on the watch.
The nephew as a Godfather?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm good. Shannon, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Craig,
thank you.
Any closing comments or remarks?
Oh, that's it, man. Just like I say, man, appreciate you all. And we're going to do 3 for the next rip, and we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys very much. God bless, and I'll see y'all later.
All right.
All right. Peace. Bye, Shannon.
Bye-bye.